Oculus has recently released their hotly anticipated Oculus Quest, and I've just got my hands on one. I mean, just like this thing arrived this morning, and I've only just opened the box a little bit to have a quick peek. So that means today I'll perform my first ever unboxing video, and we'll have a look at what you get in the box. We'll have a look at the device, maybe set it up, and I'll compare it to the Rift and the Go. And I am really excited about this. I'm a huge fan of VR. I've been a huge fan of VR since the early 90s, and I'm absolutely thrilled to start being able to bring some videos to you on this subject. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I've had an Oculus Rift for over a year, and an Oculus Go for just under a year maybe, and I absolutely love both of them. They serve totally different use cases, and surprisingly the Go is actually my go-to device, and I get more mileage out of this thing than I do the Rift. That may be because I have a young family and a busy work life, so I don't really get much time to game on the devices. Maybe an hour or two a week when I can when I could be a great husband and suggest my wife go and spend some quality time with her friends while I go and look after the kids after they go to bed. After they go to bed, of course, I'm not irresponsible. But since the days of virtuality and the Lawnmower Man, the time is finally here. Virtual reality has arrived, and it is good. If you remember back to the early to mid-90s and the games arcades, they had these monstrosity machines built by a company called Virtuality, and you would climb into it, put on your ginormous headset, pay your £3 and jack in. It was hugely impressive in its day, but it did leave a few people with a sense of nausea and motion sickness, as back then computers weren't powerful enough to generate the sorts of refresh rates that we need for a fully engaged experience. The technology fizzled away after a couple of years, and it didn't really get going again until a little known outfit called Oculus started a Kickstarter campaign in 2012 and raised almost $2.5 million. After that, it's been a meteoric rise, and Oculus spent a number of years building their technology. They released a couple of developer kits, and then on March 28, 2016, they released the consumer version of their Oculus Rift. This was closely followed by their main competitor, the HTC Vive, on the 7th of July that year, and since then the Rift has gone on to sell well, but it was held back slightly by its requirements for a rather powerful PC to drive it, which meant if you didn't already have a powerful gaming PC, your total outlay would be far higher than the $600 launch price tag, which was steep on its own. Now it has come down, it's probably about half that these days. So I waited a bit as I didn't have a powerful PC, but ultimately I built out the system I needed and got involved. The Rift was great, but it was never where I needed it to be. It was fixed to either the office or the home, depending on where I wanted to keep my PC, and that never seemed to be the right place. So ultimately, my powerful PC is at home where I get most use out of it. But I want to use VR for productivity, not just games. I want to find business and work uses for it as well. So what should I do? Do I build two powerful computers and buy two headsets so it's in the office and at home? But what about when I'm travelling and I want to engage when I'm in a hotel room or on an aeroplane? The Rift just isn't good for that, and nor is the Vive, because they're both fixed and reliant on an external computer. Now Google, interestingly, around the same time as Samsung released the Samsung Gear VR, Google released some specifications, open source, on how to build a cheap or even free headset and software standard that lets you experience VR using the screen on your phone. It's called Google Cardboard because you could literally build a cardboard fold-up piece that you slot your phone into and put it on your head. It's great. I did try getting a cheap VR headset based off that for my iPhone 6 or 7, but I gotta be honest, it was crap. It wasn't responsive, there was no decent controller, so you're limited to just head movements and looking at the objects that you want to interact with. So it was a gimmick, and it gave people a taste of what VR could be. And what I found is people either got excited about what VR could be, or it just made them think, meh, is that it? I was expecting better. And then in 2017, Oculus released the Go. And this is what cheap VR needed to be. We needed to start consumerizing the technology. It was affordable, it's about £250 and small enough to carry around, and it doesn't rely on a powerful PC to use it. It's portable, that's the main thing. And it's not attached to a computer through a long, horrible wire that just gets in the way and trip over all the time. Now because of that, I use this more than the Rift. I have this in the office with me, it goes everywhere I go, and I bought one for all of my team. So now we run our daily stand-ups in a VR space, in Altspace VR, and the experience is actually far more engaging than when we use Skype or Microsoft Teams. And this is because people can't get distracted as easily. When we're on Skype or Teams, people sit there on the phone when they're not talking or they're distracted by their email. But when we're in a VR environment, actually people are engaging with the avatars that they can see. Altspace VR is a very good tool. It's owned by Microsoft. I'm not so keen on the avatars you get. I much prefer the avatars in other chat apps. I find them more realistic and personal and engaging, but it's the only one that allows us to have more than, say, 4 people in the same room at the same time, which is a big requirement of ours. Now, obviously, the power of the Go is a lot less than the Rift, so don't expect high-end graphics, but really, I don't think it suffers for that. Games are more than immersive enough, and I rarely notice it. Now, I'm not a hardcore gamer, so I'm not that bothered about the best graphics or the highest FPS score that my friends have. So for me, it's more than good enough for what I get. Now, there's tons of apps available, which we'll cover in another video, but it also contains various productivity or chat apps. So I really can excuse it as a business tool. The Rift has some awesome productivity tools like Facebook Spaces, VTime, Big Screen, Altspace VR, and my new favourite, vSpatial. But it does suffer one huge barrier to business and productivity use, and that's something called screen door effect. The Rift has 2 OLED displays with a 1080 by 1200 pixels per eye and a 90Hz refresh rate and 110 degree field of view, but there is a very noticeable screen door effect, and that basically means you can see the gap between the individual pixels. Now, when you're playing games, that's not really noticeable, but if you're trying to read text or a document, it really is noticeable, and it really does make it difficult to engage in that kind of productivity, especially for long periods of time. I generally find input very difficult. Typing isn't very quick or easy. So for productivity, I still trying to find the best experience for that. So theoretically, the Go has a better viewing experience than the Rift and the Vive due to its high resolution. However, it does have a lower refresh rate. The Oculus Go has a 2560 by 1440 fast switching LCD display that can run at a refresh rate of 60Hz or 72Hz, depending on the app. And as we said, the Oculus Rift has one 1080 by 1200 OLED display per eye for an effective resolution of 2160 by 1200, and it runs at a faster 90Hz. So the image clarity of the Go wins out, but it doesn't feel as smooth as the Rift. Now into the Quest. On May the 21st, Oculus released the Oculus Quest and an update to the Rift, which we'll talk about another time. And that's designed to fit firmly in between the Go and the Rift. It's not replacing the Go, it sits in between. It is itself a self-contained unit, so you don't need a powerful PC to run it, and that also makes it portable, just like the Go. The Oculus Go is equipped with a Snapdragon 821 system on a chip and has 3GB of memory, and the Quest has a Snapdragon 835 system on a chip and 4GB of memory, so it should pack a bigger punch. The Quest uses 2 diamond pentile OLED displays, each with an individual resolution of 1440 by 1600 and a refresh rate of 72Hz. So that is an extra 160 by 160 pixels over the Go, which we already said had the better resolution. So I'm hoping for quite a step up in performance in the Quest over the Go. The other thing we need to talk about is degrees of freedom. I think this is really important. The Oculus Rift has 6 degrees of freedom. When you use the controllers, then we can actually move our hands around, move them forwards, move them backwards, we can bend down to pick things up, and the sensors, the external sensors that we use, can pick that up and see where our hands are. In my experience, that's very, very precise and it works really well. On the contrast, the Go has a single controller, and this just gives us 3 degrees of freedom. So I can basically twist my hand and point with it. I don't get any up and down movement, and you can feel very fixed in the position that you're put, and it can be a bit disorientated sometimes if you try to move around. So the Quest brings with it a full 6 degrees of freedom, like we see on the Rift, but it uses an inside-out technique, like we now have on the Rift S. That means we don't need the external sensors, because they're in the headset itself. There's 4 or 5 cameras that look down and that tracks where your hands are based on the Quest controllers. So that's a comparison between all of them. I think now it's time to actually open the box and let's see what's inside. Okay, so here we go. So I've never done an unboxing video before. I'm not really bothered about it being precise and correct. So all we're going to do, we're just going to have a look at the packaging, open the box, and let's just see what we get. Okay, let's move these out of the way. So first of all, the thing I notice is the packaging's actually really nice. On the top, it just tells me the memory size I have. In this case, it's 128 gig. Got some information on the back with some of the games and the apps on their specs, and a nice little sort of black view of the Quest and what's inside the box. So it feels like a premium product, so it's really nicely packaged that way. So if we open it up, and we have this is the same material that we had on the box from the Oculus Rift, I noticed. There's a nice little embossed Oculus sign, that's quite nice, and that just comes up. So again, feels like quality. And there we have the kit inside. So we can see we have the headset, the controllers, and a box of stuff. So first of all, let's have a look what's in the box of stuff. Again, the nice kind of cardboard that we have, the embossed writing that I like about Oculus, that they tend to do quite a lot. I have opened this up previously, so we'll see what we get. So first thing we have is a USB-C charging cable, actually nice and long. I don't actually know why it needs to be so long, because we don't use it tethered, just for charging, so it's quite long there. We do get a power supply with it as well. I left that at home last night because I haven't done this before. We get a lens spacer, so if you wear glasses as well, then you can use that lens spacer to clip in. And batteries, so we have two batteries here for the controllers. We'll come back to them in a moment. And we get some instructions. So that's the gubbins, and then if we just take a look at the actual headset itself, and it's nice. It's got a nice kind of material cover on it, so it feels like again a premium product. If we compare it to the Go does feel nice. It's a very different feel of it, but it's very much sort of smooth plastics where this has the material effect. Very much like the Rift, actually, it has more of a similar feel to the Rift than it does the Go. First of all, if we think about it, the weight as well, it is noticeably heavier than the Rift, I can tell, and I can feel that the weight is more at the front, which probably makes sense because there's obviously more processing kit and the sensors in here as well, so it probably has to do more than the Rift does itself. So it is heavier, and I can feel it's a bit more front weighted, so I imagine that's going to give me a bit of a pull down on the head. The head strap is more of a headband style, so a bit more light. It's softer than we get on the Rift, so it's a lot softer, and it kind of sits a little bit higher up on the head, but it has the same straps for adjusting it, unlike the Go, which is very much a material version. Which, actual fact, I don't mind this. I find this quite comfortable, so I don't mind that at all. But again, it's just slightly higher quality. As with the Rift, we can just adjust the side to bring it closer to your face, and the head strap to kind of bring it up and down. It's important to note as well that you do have to get the position exactly right, just to make sure you get it absolutely in focus. If you go off a bit, then it can drop everything out of focus. So if we carry on taking a look around the device itself, then we can see we've got the 4 cameras on the front, which tracks the controller, and then we've got 2 audio sockets here. Interesting, I've not looked at the 2 different audio. Audio is actually delivered out of the head strap itself, and I had a little play with this before, and it is actually very good straight off the headset. We also have a volume buttons on the bottom, volume up and volume down, and the power button is incredibly difficult to find when you're wearing it because it's very flush with the actual unit itself, so it can be very difficult to actually find where it is. And then we also have the lens spacer, so this is really good, and this is something that's missing on the Go, but we can actually adjust the lens spacing, so if people have wide eyes, then we can adjust it just so we get that perfect fit. So they've done a good job on making it accessible to as many people as possible. Next, if we just take a look inside, then we can see just a little description, basically telling us to go and download the app from the App Store, and all of the setup takes place on your phone as well. So the first thing you do is pair it to the Oculus app on your phone. That then syncs it downloads some new firmware, and then it's ready to go. That allows you to set up the Wi-Fi as well, And then once you've done that initial setup and set up your Guardian, which we'll talk about in a moment, then you don't actually need your phone anymore. You can actually do everything else within the Quest itself using the Oculus dashboard. Then you can actually go to the store, buy apps, do everything you need to. Or if you want, you can actually use the Oculus app on your phone. I quite often just sit there browsing through the apps and games and just see what there is new. If any on a flash sale maybe, buy it, download it, and I can send it directly to my headset as well to have it installed. So it's quite nice, you can use both. And the other connection between the headset and the phone is you can actually cast the view of the screen to your phone or any other compatible device. So that's quite nice if you want to share the experience of what you're doing. One nice thing with the Oculus Rift is that you can actually, people can see what you're playing on the screen in front of you, so it can make it more sociable. You don't get that with the Go, but with the Quest, and actually with the Go as well, you can cast that to a TV screen or a phone if you want to. So like I say, it feels very high quality, it's very nice. We'll just pull that off. I did put these back on. I've never done a peel before, so my first ever unboxing video, I feel I need to do a peel. I hope that was satisfactory for everybody. So we can see the lenses are quite nice. Mine are probably a little bit smudged now, so it's a nice kind of look into the device itself there as well. So a lovely contained unit. That's great. So if we put it on, the first thing that I notice when I put it on, I've already adjusted it to my head, but I do notice that there is more weight here than I'm used to with the Rift, but then I don't have that dangly cable on my shoulder, which is always there. The weight is quite far forward, so I do feel it pulling down a bit, and it'd be interesting to see how that feels over a period of continuous usage. I feel this fits a little bit more comfortably over my nose. With my Rift, somehow I seem to get a seal on one side but not the other. Sometimes I get a bit of light peeking through. For me personally, I feel this is actually just a slightly more snug but comfortable feel on the device. The other thing we get, we'll just move these out of the way. The other thing we get in the box is the controllers. So these controllers are slightly different to the Rift controllers, in which, see, I can't help it. I just put it there automatically. I'm used to the Rift controller, but these, because it uses the inside-out vision, the loops have to stick up so that it can actually see them. So these are different to the Rift controllers. Let's move that out of the way. As we can see here, so here's the left controller versus the left controller. We can see the slightly different design. I think this is just slightly nicer, and the plastics on the Rift controller, I feel there's a slight texture to it, and it's something that can just wear down slightly over time. And I imagine a lot of people who use them a lot can get some little worn marks on there, but overall they still feel really good quality. It's lighter as well. This is a lot lighter than the Rift controller, so it'd be interesting to see how that feels over long periods of play. Very usefully, they do include some stickers that just say left and right, just in case you're not sure. And I did put the right sticker back on the right one, so we can take that off. Take that off because I know exactly which hand it goes in. It's not that one. It's that one. Okay, so also in the box we do get the batteries, which I've lost. Where's my box of batteries? Here it is. So we get 2 batteries. Each controller takes 1 battery, and if you've used the Rift before, you'll understand this. It's a magnetic enclosure, so you just push down over it. I'm always nervous about doing it, and it just releases nicely. Battery pops in, and it just connects up. The little magnet pops into place. I like those connectors. I think they work really well, and they have stood the test of time on the Rift and the Quest as well. I'll put both of those in. So the last thing we're going to do today is we're just going to compare it to the Rift and the Go, and let's just see what the difference is. So just move some of this out of the way, move those out of the way. Let's bring out the Go and the Rift as well. So we can see here side by side that the Quest and the Rift are very much a similar size. Hold them together, they're very, very similar. Straight on again. Yeah, pretty similar as well. The front has more of a bulge, which looks more like the Vive again because of the cameras. But side on side, I think they're pretty comparable really. So Weight wise, as I said before, the Quest definitely has a bit more weight to it and a bit front heavy. And against the Oculus Go, a bit comparable, maybe just slightly heavier. I'll probably need to weigh it, see, but that feels just slightly heavier. Again, actually similar size. Interestingly, with the face mask, you can see that the Go is actually just a smidge, pretty similar actually. So for portability and carrying around, they should be about the same. Now I need a bigger carry case because the head strap is bigger on this, and the Go goes a lot more compact. So for carrying around, this probably will be a bit more of a pain because it is just slightly on the bigger size, but that's mainly because of the head strap. Actually, the device itself is very similar. So that's how they currently look, and what we'll try and do next in the next video is we'll turn it on and we'll take a look at it, and we'll see what the experience is like across all three of them. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed seeing what the Oculus Quest looks like, and the next thing I'll do is we'll try and get a video and I'll show you what it can do, and I look forward to that. So thank you very much for joining me today.